You have to make notes. Second is to analyze your mistakes, because even this year I can say the mistakes which I made this year also. Even when I cleared, I can say around 10 to 15 mistakes which I made in descriptive, in objective, or interview. So
So, hi everyone, and welcome back once again to the channel. I welcome you all to another episode of NABARD Grade A 2023 Topper Series. And today with me is a very special guest. His name is Mr. Ayush, and he has cleared the NABARD Grade A examination in his second attempt. So, I welcome Ayush to the channel and many congratulations for clearing this exam.
thank you so much, sir.
All right, so Ayush, I would like to start with the introduction part. The people around there would like to know about, uh, basically about your brief introduction. So let's start with the introduction.
Okay, sir. So my name is Ayush Anand. I was born and brought up in a village in Dehri Onson, which is in Bihar. I did my schooling from there only. Then I did my graduation from BIT Mesa Ranchi in Jharkhand in production engineering stream. Thereafter, after my college placement, I started working as assistant manager in Hindustan Zinc Limited in Udaipur, Rajasthan. Started with UPSC preparation, and this was my second attempt of NABARD, and as well as my second interview.
Okay, so Ayush, मैं हमेशा यूपीएससी से स्टार्ट करना पसंद करता हूँ. तो you graduated in production engineering and then you started job in private sector. Then first of all, पहला क्वेश्चन मेरा ये है कि जब हम प्राइवेट सेक्टर में काम शुरू कर देते हैं, देन जनरली क्या होता है कि वी सेटल डाउन आवरसेल्फ कि नहीं हो पाता, छोड़ो हटाओ, अब तो पैसा आ रहा है ना. सो सबसे पहला सवाल मेरा ये है कि यूपीएससी के बारे में, यूपीएससी की तैयारी करनी क्यों शुरू की? व्हाट वाज द मोटिवेशन बिहाइंड दैट?
Yes, actually, I have lived all my life in a rural area. So I always wanted to associate myself or to work for the rural people. Even my college and actually my job, that was also in a very rural area. So I have seen those problems of rural people. So I always wanted to associate myself and to do a kind of public dealing directly with people. So that's why I started with UPSC in 2019.
ओके, सो बेसिकली आप बचपन से ही जमीन से जुड़े हुए हैं, राइट? हम ये कह सकते हैं, ठीक है. तो यूपीएससी के बाद फिर अब ये जो रेगुलेटरी बॉडीज की जर्नी है, ये कैसे स्टार्ट हुई? कैसे पता चला नाबार्ड के बारे में?
Yes, sir. So actually, I failed in three UPSC prelims, two state PSC prelims. So I thought that maybe I could shift to some other exams where I can associate myself or I can use my knowledge. So first I started with SEBI. I know my preparation was not at par because I knew about SEBI just a month back. So I started with prelims only, that if I can qualify prelims at least. So eventually I qualified prelims. I gave mains and I failed by quite a lot of marks. But I got to know that okay, I can at least qualify prelims, if not qualify mains or that. Then again I failed in RBI prelims, but I thought okay, maybe I should keep dreaming. Then I came to know about NABARD only. After RBI, after the failure of RBI only, that okay, NABARD notification is about to come. Then I saw the syllabus. The syllabus was something like, because it has a descriptive, objective, and interviews. So I thought that okay, I can use my descriptive knowledge of UPSC in NABARD descriptive. All I would have to work is English of 100 marks and 50 marks in objective for mains, and then I can work in interview. Then I filled the form eventually in NABARD, sir.
Okay, so Ayush, here I would like to ask another question. Like, for example, a lot of people I have met, when they face two, three failures, they quit generally. But in from your journey, we could see that a series of failures that you faced, but then also you kept your motivation high. So how did you manage that? Because it is very difficult. One at a place you're working, and on the other hand, you are having these multiple failures. I should not say the failures. मैं ये बोलता हूँ कि ये lessons है, right? So how did you manage? Because बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. तो अपने आप को कैसे समझा रहे थे आप बार बार कि नहीं, let's try once more, let's try once more, let's try once more, है ना? So how did you do that?
Yes, so actually these failures are kind of double-edged sword, because if you're failing by 1.25 marks or 0.66 marks, like I failed in UPSC prelims by 0.66 marks exactly. So it's like a double-edged sword. For once you can think that okay, I was very close and I can clear, and the second you can also think that maybe luck is not in your side. But I think, sir, eventually my peer groups, because we have like a 15 to 20 like-minded people which we found on Telegram or WhatsApp. So these like-minded people, we all have seen failures. There were people who have appeared in 3 interviews or 2 interviews. So we used to keep this motivation as a collective. Like we used to have a collective motivation that okay, we have failed, we can work on these gaps, we can work on that gap. So I think peer group helped me to have a collective motivation with like-minded people.
Yes, identifying those gaps are very important. And actually I consider all these failures as the life lessons, because लाइफ में सब कुछ हमारे हिसाब से हो दैट इज नॉट पॉसिबल, है ना? तो कुछ कुछ चीजें हमें लाइफ को भी करने देना चाहिए, राइट? Okay, so now I just want to know that in the last attempt of NABARD, you just missed it by 1.25 marks. है ना? So in this attempt, obviously you have cleared it. So क्या इम्प्रूवमेंट थी, मतलब क्या आपने जो पिछले अटेम्प्ट्स में और इस अटेम्प्ट में आपने क्या आइडेंटिफाई किया कि भाई व्हाट वेंट रॉन्ग इन द प्रीवियस अटेम्प्ट, सो आई शुड वर्क ऑन दिस एरिया, and how much important is this to identify those areas where we have lagged last time?
Yes, sir. For example, last year I didn't have any notes, whether it's objective or descriptive or English. So I thought that the time frame, like if you compare this to UPSC, the time frame is very less in RBI or NABARD. Like it's almost a month or so after the result. So I thought that maybe I should make a note. I make my own notes, which I can revise it thoroughly in like 1 to 2 days. I can revise it thoroughly, end to end. So I make my own notes for each and everything, whether it's a merit section, non-merit section, English, interview, mains, descriptive, everything. I make my own notes. I had my introduction, conclusion, everything was ready for each and every topic. And apart from notes, sir, actually, like I have identified my mistakes last year. For example, in objective, I was not thorough with the concept. I was making mistakes in the concept, whether it's like 2 marker, 1 marker. I actually made mistake in keywords. Then English, sir, actually I have not given any full length tests. So what happens is that like full length test is not just to get idea about the problems or get the speed. Actually, you can have the speed and all accuracy, but when you give the full length tests, you actually get to know how to you are reading the paragraphs or how to you are reading the questions. For example, in the later last year, sir, there was a question about the chair that you have to write to the customer care about the defective chair, and it was specifically written that the problem was the size issue. But in the heat of the moment or in the lapse of the concentration, I read that it was a manufacturing defect. So I have written the letter that it was a manufacturing defect, which was not the context. So that was a mistake. Then I could not be able to find the word counter actually, because I have given just one mains before that, the SEBI one. In SEBI, word counter is in the right side, the upper right corner. In the NABARD, it is in the upper left, bottom left corner. So I could not find the word counter, and these two mistakes made me to like in English I got 55 marks. So these were very horrible mistake which I did in this one and that. Descriptive I went well. I don't think there was any that kind of things which I could have make wrong. But actually, sir, like there was question on Pradhan Mantri Matsya Sampada Yojana. And again, sir, because I have not done that kind of full length practices, I have done the year wrong. Actually, I had written that it was started from 2015, which was actually the Blue Revolution, I think. So it was started in 2020, not 2015. And it was the first question. And if you are an examiner and if you are seeing my copy, that was the first question. My first line started that this scheme was launched in 2015. So if you are an examiner and if you have to see 4 questions, you get a very wrong impression about that person, that he has no idea about the year, because there was a 5-year gap. I got 38 marks. It was not bad in descriptive, but I think that was a bad impression. So I worked in those things, that if I have to write anything in descriptive, it has to be accurate, or I will just leave that part. Again, sir, in interview, sir, actually interview again I was not very thorough with the concept. I have not given many mock interviews or peer interviews. I have not developed my arsenal. Actually, first you have to develop your arsenal. First you have to develop your weapons if you have to use it in your battle. So I have not developed my arsenal. I have not made any notes what I have to do. Like I thought that okay, if the HR question will come, I will handle it. It's not a problem. But it doesn't happen that way. You have to prepare your HR questions also. You should be like, if you are saying something why you want to join NABARD, you have to be very thorough with the points you are saying. That you can't just blabber anything there. So I was very thorough this time that if I have any word, if I am choosing, I should know the follow-up question and I should know the exact definition of that thing. So I made my notes also of interview, and everything which I was being asked, everything came from my notes, each and every topic, everything.
Wonderful. I think you had done a very comprehensive analysis of what went wrong in the last attempt. Very well done, Ayush. And that is why I believe this is the reason that you are sitting in front of me today and you have cleared this examination. Wonderful. So अब strategy पे आते हैं. Let's talk about the strategy. Let's start from phase one. So in phase one, we have non-merit section and merit section. So and obviously non-merit section ko we can't ignore, because this year only I saw a lot of people who could not clear. Last year also I saw a lot of people who could not clear the sectional cutoff of subjects like decision making, computer awareness, because generally ये tendency है, मैंने देखा है लोगों की कि यार कर लेंगे 10 ही क्वेश्चन आते हैं, डिसीजन मेकिंग है, बना लेंगे, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है ना. So what were your strategies in the non merit section and then the merit section? Let's talk about the subject by strategy.
Okay, so for QRE, quant reasoning in English, like I came to know from last attempt only that questions would be very doable. It would be nearly at a clerk level. The only problem is that if you are not managing your time carefully in ARD and ESI, you would be having very less time. Even if they would be easy question, you would be having very less time to solve. So first you have to solve ARD and ESI in a very fast manner, so that you eventually you can just shift to decision making and computer awareness. And yes sir, actually most of my friends, even those who have given interview last year, they have failed in decision making and computer awareness. And actually even I was not scoring too much of marks this year. Like I scored 15 marks something around in computer awareness last year, and this year I was scoring around 7 to 8 marks, which was like 2 to 3 marks above the cutoff of last year, 5 marks. And actually the questions were very difficult this year. Like there was a question on CPU, and there were 4 options provided. That CPU is a peripheral device, and the speed was there, mentioned was there, and there was one option that the modern CPUs, they have only one processor. So they were like four to five options, and it was not like all were true, which happens in UPSC and other, that you can just mark all are true. Like 2 of the options were wrong, 2 are correct. So you have to identify which were wrong. You have to eliminate the option like a proper question format in a computer. So for that sir, actually you have to work on concept. In computer you can't just like read the shortcuts, like people what they do, they just read the shortcut control plus s control plus o. That won't work in computer awareness in NABARD. You have to be thorough with the concept, like what is happening, what is the use of that device, how things are saved. Like questions were asked for stylus, questions were asked from incognito, that if you are saving something in incognito, where this file will be downloaded, where this file will be stored. So you have to be thorough with the understanding. The same goes with the decision making. You can't just memorize or do the rote learning. You have to be thorough with the difference between different biasness. If there is a cognitive biasness, if there is a like hinder side biasness, you have to be thorough with the difference between each and everything. Because there was a question in SIP 1 about a confirmation biasness, and they've asked the exact definition of confirmation biasness. So you have to be very thorough with the difference between each and everything.
Right. तो ये थी नॉन मेरिट सेक्शन की कहानी. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द मेरिट सेक्शन. वी हैव 3 सब्जेक्ट्स, ESI, ARD एंड GA. सो व्हाट वर द सोर्सेज ऑफ प्रिपरेशन? हाउ डिड यू प्रिपेयर फॉर ऑल दीस 3 सब्जेक्ट्स? इसके बारे में बात करते हैं थोड़ा.
Yes, sir. In ARD, sir, I used notes of different coaching institute and YouTube materials. Like I made my notes, and actually I made I made 14 topic notes of ARD static. I made my own notes, which I can revise like in an hour or two. I can revise a whole static part. For ESI, I relied on Scheme Tab, and you are also actually you have your. I used to see your YouTube videos that like it used to come weekly. So I used to see that. I used to add on those things in my notes only. That I will use that part in my notes only. And apart from that, I used to directly read PIB. I used to go in PIB website and I used to read the specific part, because I have identified that how the question has been asked. And for that, PYQ analysis is very important, that you have to be very thorough with the PYQ, that what kind of question they actually ask. For example, this year also they have asked one question from cooperative policy, that how like who headed the cooperative, committee. There was a question about PACs, and it was mentioned all in one PIB. It was a yearly review of Ministry of Corporation, and they have mentioned everything, whether it's year and how Suresh Prabhu is heading the committee, what was the recommendation of this committee, what was the year, what is the deadline, who is in the implementing partner, like NABARD is the implementing partner. So I used to read the PIB directly, and I used to make my notes from PIB. And sir, this was like mostly ESI. I used to do schemes in PIB and current affair. For current affair, it was like a scattered manner because I thought that if I can manage ARD and ASI in GA, if I can score like somewhere around 3 to 4 marks higher than cutoff, that would be sufficient. So I was very like heavily relied on ARD and SI than GA. For GA, I was just reading basic things. I thought that maybe like it's not very important, but actually it's it will not be fruitful in mains also, because GA thing they would be asked very general thing, and they are not asked in mains. They have not they don't ask about reports and all they ask is schemes and all. So if I am relying on ESI on ARD, that would be sufficient.
ठीक है. So before moving to the phase 2 strategy, Ayush, I would like to focus on this note making part of yours, because I could sense that you have worked a lot on this note making thing, and as you mentioned that it is the only reason that you cleared this examination this time. So generally क्या है कि note making के बारे में समझ में नहीं आता कि कैसे करें, कहाँ से करें, क्या लिखना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए नोट मेकिंग में. सो थोड़ा सा नोट मेकिंग की स्ट्रैटेजी बताओ, आपने कैसे करी और ऑनलाइन करी, ऑफलाइन करी, थोड़ा सा डिटेल में बात करते हैं.
Yes, sir. Actually, because these exams like NABARD and RBI, they are very current oriented. So making like offline notes is very difficult because you have to keep adding things eventually, that you have to add something current affair about PIB or scheme. Like if you are making notes of a scheme, you will eventually have to add many things after a definite time. If something is adding, so you have to add that this percentage, that percentage. So I thought that I would make my all notes online only. So I use OneNote. I make notes of each and everything. Like there was not a one thing which I was reading between pre and mains offline. Like apart from reading schemes and all, I was using all things for my scheme only. I was reading all things from my notes only. So I've used OneNote. I have made like a separate folders. For example, for the static part, there were 14 different subfolders of different ARD topics. For descriptive, I make notes like there was a table, there were different tables of introduction, of conclusion, of the keywords. Like if there was a question like last year descriptive, I was not using the keywords. So this year I have made the keywords notes also, that there is a forward linkage, backward linkage, infrastructure. So for each and everything, I have make notes that what are the keywords which I have to use, what are the examples which I have to use. There was a separate folder for committees, Hukumdev committee, Swaminathan committee. So there was the Dalwai committee. So there was a specific recommendation in bullet points that what I could add and what were the committee recommendation, what are the things which they have said, what are the facts which they have said. And actually I used those notes in my descriptive also. I have used Hukumdev committee in one of the question of rural marketing, that he had said that Gramin agriculture market, they have to be upgraded. So I used those things. So I made everything in my notes only. Whether it's even for English, sir, actually I have made my notes that for letter what I have to use, what for presi what I have to use, what are the mistakes which I am making in Grammarly. So I used to do the things in Grammarly, and I used to make notes that okay, if I'm writing that thing, I have to use that thing. If I'm using that, or even if I'm doing paraphrasing, I used to make those notes that I used to have to mention that thing only in my paraphrase. So I made everything, even for interview also, sir. Like there were annual report came, now what annual report came, so I make all the chapter notes for interview. All the HR questions were being mentioned, that all the HR things which I have to say, I made everything, and everything came from there only. Actually I underperformed in my notes only. Like leave the static part and all, I underperformed in my notes only. I could have scored more if I could have studied well my own notes only.
वंडरफुल. आई थिंक दैट्स अ वेरी ब्यूटीफुल अप्रोच दैट यू हैव फॉलोड. नोट मेकिंग से जब हम खुद से नोट बनाते हैं तो हमें चीज़ें याद भी रहती है. ठीक है, वंडरफुल. लेट्स कम टू द फेज 2 स्ट्रैटेजी नाउ. फेज 2 में अब दो पेपर है हमारे पास, ईएसआई आरडी, ऑब्जेक्टिव डिस्क्रिप्टिव एंड इंग्लिश डिस्क्रिप्टिव. सो हाउ डिड यू प्रिपेयर फॉर बोथ दीज पेपर्स? ऑब्वियसली नोट मेकिंग तो आपका एक बहुत बड़ा स्ट्रैटेजी था ही, उसके अलावा कुछ और आप जो शेयर करना चाहते हो.
Yes, sir. So I relied on keywords this year in objective. Like from last year experience, I came to know that the options could be confusing, but if I know the keywords, the exact keyword, I could crack the code. It worked this year. That like for example, there was question on primary harrow, there was questions on soil. So I was just identifying, trying to find the keyword. For example, there was a question on soil, and they have mentioned the it was a breakdown, the breakdown of something something something, and there was mention option was there like solonization, solidization, alkalinization. So I knew that if it's a breakdown, it can't be alkalinization or solonization, because it's accumulation, not breakdown. It should be solidization only. So I identified those keywords only. For example, if there was a fact, so I worked on that fact only, that if I can crack the keyword, I can solve the objective. And NABARD actually, this is just one thing that NABARD don't try to confuse you. They don't try to confuse you much. Like you don't have to uh, delve too much in that. If you know something about that, you can solve that question. I came to know the last year only. So I was just trying to find the keyword and trying to find the concept only. That if I can say that okay, this is secondary hero, primary hero, tillage, I used to work around the keywords and notes only. So that was objective. And in descriptive, sir, because I bought a keyboard last year also. I had that keyboard. I worked on that thing. And one good thing about making notes online is that your speed and grammar, that will improve, because if you're typing everything, you don't have to cut and copy thing, you have to type everything. If you're typing everything, if you have made notes of like let's say 10,000 words or 12,000 words, you have actually typed that 12,000 words in your own words actually. So your grammar has improved, your typing speed has improved. Two things have checked in. All you have to work is to how to use that notes in descriptive. So again, I used to practice actually. I used to before, between pre and mains, I used to sit in the proper format, that in morning I will solve the English, in afternoon I will solve the objective, and I will do the descriptive part, and I will not do the standalone questions. Like this was the mistake last year, that I was solving standalone question like essay, then I will solve later next day, or in descriptive I will solve 10 marker, or one day I will solve 15 marker. I thought that this will not work, because if one is sitting for mains, everyone knows how to write essay, how to write letter, how to write précis. How you can differentiate is you have to sit down for proper 1.5 hours. You have to solve the question, and you have to prepare your mind how you can work while exhausting your mind. Because if your mind is fresh, you can solve question, but how you can solve that question if your mind has exhausted? After writing English and objective, you have to write descriptive. Descriptive is the later part, the last part. So how you can write 1900, 1800 words after the exhausting? So I used to practice daily between pre and mains. Whatever the source which I have, I used to practice daily.
ठीक है, वंडरफुल। आई थिंक ये बहुत अच्छी बात बताई आपने कि आइसोलेशन में हमें प्रैक्टिस नहीं करनी चाहिए कि 10 क्वेश्चन आज कर लिए, 20 क्वेश्चन कर लिए। वी नीड टू प्रैक्टिस इन बिल्कुल एग्जाम सिमुलेशन करके हमें करना चाहिए। वंडरफुल। लेट्स कम टू इंटरव्यू पार्ट नाउ। इंटरव्यू की दो पार्ट्स में हम बात करेंगे। what how did you prepare for the interview and how was the actual interview experience? So let's start with the preparation part.
Yes, yes. So actually, the actual interview has also two parts. First, you have to prepare, and then you have to use it. So if you are preparing, I think the mock interview is actually the second part. Actually, it's almost close to second part, where you practice what you have learned. So first you have to learn before practicing it. So for that, actually, I make notes. Like I said, I make notes of everything, every HR question, every static question, everything about what chairman sir had said. Like I used to Google chairman sir KV Saji, or ex-chairman GR Chintala sir, what he had said in any forum or in any PIB. I used to Google that thing. That like this year, this in December, KV Saji sir had said about Lakpati Didi, that how it can be used to transform those SHG into micro enterprise. So I thought that if a question will come about LADP or MEDP, I will use that line that KV Saji sir had said, because that will add weight in that question. Same thing I used for GR Chintala sir, who was ex-chairman. And actually I used his quote in why NABARD. I was asked why NABARD, and I used his quote, that NABARD finds no parallel in the world in terms of its scale, mission, vision, spirit, and ethos. That way, I used to like practice with my peer groups. Like they were my friends, like who used to call me and who used to ask me those questions, and they used to recommend that thing. And actually, I worked on those recommendations. Like they used to say that if they are asking you a specific definition, why not you try to add examples specifically of your district or your state. So when I was asked one question was climate proofing, ma'am, chairman, she asked, no, actually, Surekha ma'am, she asked climate proofing. So because I have prepared my notes of climate proofing also in my interview, it was mentioned the exact definition of climate proofing, that it's an integration of climate adaptation and climate mitigation into infrastructure projects and development projects. And actually, I added the example also that in Bihar, if Ahar Pine system is being used for traditional rainwater harvesting, that is one example of rainwater, like one example of climate proofing. So I added my examples like additionally apart from definition. So I think the peer group is very important. If you have a good peer group, you can actually practice the NABARD annual report. Like we used to in our peer group, we used to come down like in the evening, and we used to practice the annual report. We have allocated each and every member a specific chapter, and he has to explain that annual report, the chapter of the annual report, and everyone will just jump in and add on something, that what is about that, what is that. So that way I developed my arsenal, I developed my weapons, that what all I have to say, what all I have to use, and that I used in the second one. And my interview actually, sir, went well. Last year also it went like almost fine, but there were some gaps, there were many gaps actually. Last year I was not very confident, I was not having eye contact in the actual interview. So I worked on those things, I worked on examples, that if I can add examples, it would give me a good weightage. So this year again, when I was started, the interview started with like my introduction. I gave my introduction. Again, my peer group actually they have said that if you're giving your introduction, why not you try to say that it's your second interview as well as second attempt of NABARD. So I said that thing in introduction, and the next question was why you were so persistent to join NABARD only. So I got that the thing which I wanted them to ask me, that why you want to join NABARD, and I had the 4 or 5 specific things which I've said, that my sense of purpose, because my vision is aligned with NABARD's vision of fostering rural prosperity. Then obviously, like there are 3 things why you want to join NABARD. First thing is like if they are good incentive and good workplace, that is checked in. The second thing is if your vision, or you are you like aligned with the NABARD's vision. So I said that thing. And the third thing is if that organization is very honorable, or you find it very honorable to work there. So I mentioned that J.R. Chintala sir quote, that it's there is no NABARD finds no parallel in the world. And I said that specifically, that as J.R. Jindal sir has said. So that's why I want to join NABARD. And eventually it goes on like that. I was asked climate proofing, I gave examples and all. Then I was asked about my PLP, actually PLP, because in when chairman she asked like what specifically you will do in your village. So again, I had this thing in my mind. If I would be asked, I would use a DDM sir, that I have met my DDM sir, district development manager, and I can actually work in that area because I have seen those things. So it was actually in my mind that if I can use that thing, she will get to know that okay, he has like gone a little further from his comfort zone to go to DDM and meet him. So when I said all those things, I was asked about PLP, that what PLP, what is there, what is the project outlay, and what is the potential of your PLP. Then sir, he asked what is the difference between investment credit and production credit. Actually, again, sir, PYQ is very important. Whether it's from any coaching institute, there are many coaching institute, even Jindal sir, like they have PYQ source of interview. So this specific question was asked, I remember, to someone in 2021, and it was mentioned in some coaching institute that what is the difference between investment credit and production credit. So I read that thing and I made my notes. So PYQ is very important in interview also, because questions can repeat, and they actually repeat. Even the static part, they actually also repeat. So I made my notes, I gave the exact definition, I gave the additional examples So yes sir, actually it went pretty good.
ठीक है, वंडरफुल। आई थिंक जो मुझे आपकी पूरी जर्नी से समझ में आता है दैट इज कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव। एक वर्ड अगर मैं आपके जर्नी को देना चाहूंगा तो आई विल से दैट इट वाज एक्चुअली वेरी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव। ईच एंड एवरीथिंग यू हैव एनालाइज्ड वेरी ब्यूटीफुल, एंड आई थिंक वही रीजन है कि आपका एग्जाम निकला है फाइनली। सो या दैट्स इट आयुष, दैट्स ऑल दैट आई वांटेड टू डिस्कस विद यू। अब चलते चलते अगर आप कोई आखिरी मैसेज हमारे करंट एस्पिरेंट्स को देना चाहेंगे तो यू आर मोस्ट वेलकम।
Yes, sir. So, like first thing which I have said all in my all during my interview is that you have to make notes. Second is to analyze your mistakes because even this year I can say the mistakes which I made this year also. Even when I cleared, I can say around 10 to 15 mistakes which I made in descriptive, objective, or interview. So you have to analyze your mistakes because it is not possible that you can't just things everything on luck, that you have failed because of luck. There will be always some mistakes which happen, so you have to work on your past mistakes. And third is you have to use those things, like you have to do multiple test. You can give multiple tests, whether it's offline or offline or online or a different coaching institute. You can use peer groups to use your arsenal, to use your weapons, whether it's mock interview or objective part or your descriptive part. Make a good peer group. If there is a good peer group, they can motivate you to work on that thing, and they can actually help you in descriptive and objective and interview.
ठीक है आयुष, सो थैंक यू वेरी मच फॉर गिविंग अस द टाइम, एंड इट्स फॉर यू, एंड
Thank
आई
you, sir.
विश यू ऑल द बेस्ट फॉर द फ्यूचर, एंड
Thank
आई
you so
विश
much.
यू ऑल द लक फॉर दिस NABARD journey. All right, guys. So that was Mr. Ayush for us. I hope you guys have learned something from his journey. The journey was very comprehensive. मैं बार बार इस शब्द पे फोकस कर रहा हूँ कि comprehensive होना बहुत जरूरी है आप लोगों को if you want to clear any competitive examination, right? So I wish you all the best for your preparation, and I'll see you in the next session with another topper of NABARD Grade 2023. Till then, keep studying and keep studying hard. Goodbye, take care, and God bless.